Welcome Pastor back to the pulpit as he comes.
Before you sit down, I usually tell you you're looking good. But today I'm telling you, you are good looking. Do you wear a mask? Yes, you do. Now, some people wear a mask today, and that's what spawned this sermon anyway. Some people wear a mask because it gives them a measure of comfort to know that they are not only protecting themselves, but they're protecting others. But criminals wear a mask because they don't want to be identified. They don't want anybody to know the dirty deeds they're doing. All of us wear a mask from time to time because we don't want people to know who we really are. People wear a mask to church. Couple gets up Sunday morning, going to go to church. Husband gets up and sits in his lazy boy. Wife gets up, tries to get the kids fed, get them dressed, get them ready for church. Husband sits in his lazy boy. She goes in and she starts getting dressed. He gets up when it's about time to go. Takes him 5 minutes to go in, brush his teeth, comb his hair, put on his clothes. He's ready to go. He goes and sits in his lazy boy and starts hollering at his wife. Are you still getting ready? How long does it take you to get ready? How long can you stand in front of a mirror? He didn't do anything. He's just sitting in his lazy boy. Finally, he's had all he can stand. He says, okay, kids, go get in the car. We'll just wait on Mama in the car. He gets in the car, starts the engine, starts blowing his horn. All the neighbors are watching. She finally comes out the door carrying her purse, her Bible, trying to pull her pantyhose up. She gets in the car. He's mad. Smoke coming out of his ears. Kids are cutting up in the back seat. Having a little fun, going to church. He says, shut up back there. We're going to church. I'll slap your face off. You'll have to go into church with no face on. Don't you make me come back there. Pulls in the parking lot, and somebody has parked in his favorite parking spot. Now he's really mad. Gets out of the car, slams the door. Lock that door, and Christians liable to steal everything we got. He walks in the door, and miracle of miracles takes place. Good morning. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Isn't that a beautiful dress? Look at those lovely children. And his kids are standing there looking at him. Is this the same guy we rode to church with? We wear church masks sometimes. None of those has anything to do with the sermon today. The sermon has to do, what kind of mask do you wear in your marriage? Now, marriage can be bliss or a problem. It can be a dream or a nightmare. Poor Adam had no clue what he was doing when he took a nap in the garden and woke up married. There was Eve, this beautiful creature God had created just for him. And she's standing there saying, do you love me, Adam? Adam says, who else, Eve? Who else? It was all Adam's fault. If love is a dream, marriage is the alarm clock. Woman goes to see her psychiatrist and she's got a 40-minute session. Talks for a full 40 minutes. She's finally winding down and she says, my husband has a terrible mental disorder. I can talk for hours and he doesn't remember a word that I said. Psychiatrist says, that's not a disorder, that's a gift. What are you saying? You can murder your marriage by what you say. But you can also murder your marriage by saying nothing. The other day I watched the space shuttle. They were talking to the people on the space shuttle. We can talk to people on the space shuttle 225 miles out in space, traveling at a speed of 17,227 miles an hour. And we can talk to them, carry on the conversation. But families can't even talk to each other sitting at the dinner table. They got to have, even kids, got to have a phone in their hand. Dads can't talk to their sons. Moms can't talk to their daughters. And husbands and wives can't talk to each other. In Genesis 2:28, God looked at Adam and said, it is not good that man should be alone. Being alone is not a good thing. But you can be alone in a crowd. But today, people are alone at home because they no longer talk to each other. What you say is the lifeblood of any relationship. The life of the soul is in the blood, God said. When the blood stops flowing through your body dies. Don't question it. Don't call a hospital. Call an undertaker. When the blood stops flowing through your body, you're dead. And when you stop talking to each other in your marriage, the marriage dies, the family disintegrates, the kingdom of God suffers, and the church suffers. Because when the marriage and the family disintegrates, the church usually loses them all. What are you saying? Now, what are you saying doesn't mean out yelling your wife, men. And it doesn't mean out talking your husband, ladies. Be like the guy said, my wife and I have words. I just never get to use mine. If you wonder why your words are sometimes sharp, maybe it's because he has to drive them in sideways. What are you saying does not mean temper tantrum, crocodile tears, silent treatment, guilt trips. That's all manipulation. Ephesians 5:25 says, husband, love your wife as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it. Verse 22 says, wives, submit yourself to your own husbands as unto the Lord. Now, men, that does not mean that you macho men have to bend your wife's will to suit your will. What you don't know, Rambo, is that on the inside at some point she will begin to rebel. And an explosion will happen and you'll be left standing there scratching your head wondering what in the world just happened. No one is rigid. We're not made of stone, we're made of flesh and blood. And we're changing constantly. We're growing. Well, my wife is always changing her mind. Well, I have a news flash for you, big boy. Men change their minds more often than women do. We're changing. You are not the person you were a week ago. You're not the person you were a year ago, 10 years ago. If you don't believe it, just look at a picture of yourself about 10, 20, 30 years ago. You're constantly changing. We're growing. Your mind is expanded. A young man came to me about 3 years ago. And he said, we're getting a divorce. And I said, well, what's going on? He said, my wife just did not grow with me. She is so immature. I grew and she didn't grow with me. We just grew apart. No, that's not the problem. The problem is you stop talking to each other. You stop talking about what you believe, what you feel, what you think, what you love, what you want, what you don't want, what you like, what you don't like. You stop talking about your dreams and your desires. You stop making plans. Your marriage will not last very long if you're trying to keep your mate under your thumb. It hurts. It hurts when you are ridiculed and rejected by someone you love. And when you're afraid you will be ridiculed or rejected, you just stop talking. Now, men, I've told you this before, but you better listen to me. Are you always telling your wife how good-looking some other woman is? You see a good-looking woman and you say, look at that. Drool running down your chin. If your wife did that, she saw a good-looking man and she said, look at that. She's drooling. Your ego would bust like Humpty Dumpty. You'd never be able to put it back together again. Wife, are you always complaining about something? You're always late. Never on time for dinner. Let me ask you a question. What's he coming home to? Do you meet him at the door looking like a bale of hay? Psychology got a new terminology today. It's called married singles. They live under the same roof, have the same name, sleep in the same bed. But they're emotionally divorced. Because he goes his way, she goes her way. He's got his money, she's got her money. They're not one. They're just two individuals living together, emotionally divorced. Do you wear a mask? Have you stopped being honest with each other? You see, we learn to put on a mask, to play a game, to play a role like an actor on a stage. Actors are paid to pretend that they're someone else. What mask do you wear, ladies? Do you think you're God's little helper? The universe does not revolve around you. Are you so involved in so many things that you don't have time for your husband and your marriage? Are you wasting yourself trying to be something to somebody else? How about fixing your priorities? Like your husband, your kids, your home. When you meet your husband at the door, make him want to come home. What kind of mask are you wearing? Are you wearing the religious mask? Are you saying everything is wonderful when your marriage is falling apart? Church, do you realize it's all right to be honest? I mean, if you're having a marriage problem, it's all right to say, Pastor, we need help. We're hurting. Our marriage is a disaster. Our home is a mess. It's all right to be honest. Do you realize that we all have our failures? We all have our weaknesses. There's none of us perfect. We have faults, flaws, and it's all right to be honest. Romans 15:1 says, let the strong bear the infirmities of the weak. That was written to the church. That's the role of the church. When we're strong, it's our job to help and encourage and pick up those that are weak. And when we're weak, that's somebody's job to help pick us up, encourage us, and even carry us a little ways if they have to. That's the role of the church. Now, you may not need to be at church for yourself, but there may be someone there that needs you to pick them up. When we stand together, our strength is stronger than our weakness. Men, maybe you just need to take your mask off and introduce yourself to your wife, who you really are. And ladies, maybe it's time to take your mask off and let you know who you really are. And singles, by the way, if you're looking for Mr. Wonderful or Miss Perfect, I have a news flash. There ain't no such creature on the planet. Now, anybody can be Mr. Wonderful or Miss Perfect on date night. But they left the real them at home, locked in the closet. And when you get married, the one that's locked in the closet is what you're going to get. When God said, be not unequally yoked together with unbelievers, he meant what he said. I hear girls say, I'll change him when we get married. No, you won't. If God can't change him, what makes you think you've got a chance in the world of changing him? And men, you're a fool if you think she'll change when you get married. That little canary will turn into a buzzard. You'll have a vulture on your shoulder. Now, some of you girls chased that man till you got him. And some of you men chased that gal till you got him. And now you're not sure you want what you got. You are wearing a mask if you're playing a role trying to be what you think that person wants you to be. Because that is emotional suicide. Because that person's going to change. And then you will have to change to be the new person that they want you to be. At some point, you lose control of the most important person to you. You lose yourself. Take the mask off. Stop trying to be what you think people want you to be. Just be what God created you to be. Amen. If they can't love you because you are you, they will never love the person that you're trying to be. Do you wear the silent treatment mask? You get angry, you give them the side. Follow them around the house so you won't talk to them. Silent treatment, that's pouting. It's controlled anger held inside, and it will eat you alive. Ephesians 4:15 says, speak the truth in love. Can you really be honest with each other? Can you speak the truth in love? And the more you speak praise and love to each other, the more praise and love will flow back to you. And the more you speak ridicule and anger at each other, it's all going to come back. Life is an echo. What you say will come back to you. Do you wear a mask of not listening? Do you have some kind of automatic ability to close your ears, have selective hearing? Listen, you better learn to listen to what they are really saying. Understanding each other is not just talking. It's also listening. You better listen to what your spouse is really saying. Because if you don't, they'll just stop saying anything. Wife, learn when to speak and when to keep your mouth shut. If your husband comes home from work looking like he's been through a war zone, crawled through a minefield, that's probably not the best time to tell him that your mother, his mother-in-law, has moved in for the winter. It's probably not the best time to say, we got a letter from the IRS today. They want to check your finances and your taxes back to the Noah's Ark. Learn when to speak and when to keep your mouth shut. Let me give you some words of wisdom. Pray for each other. If you can't talk to God about each other, you're in serious trouble. Wives, don't be on the phone, on Facebook, on the computer, talking to all your friends and neighbors about your husband. Talk to God. Did you know my wife and I pray for each other every night when we turn the light off to go to sleep? You don't have to pray a long prayer. We just pray a short blessing on each other. We touch each other and say a blessing on each other. Pray for each other. It's a whole lot better than talking to your neighbors. Let me give you 2 magic statements. I'm sorry, and I love you. When you're wrong, I'm sorry. And when you're right, I love you. Now, one of us spends a lot of time saying, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to tell you which one. A man who was not extremely wealthy, but they were well off, talked to me 2 or 3 years ago. He's a businessman, owned a restaurant. I think he said they'd been married 22 years. His wife left him, and he was devastated. And he said, Mack, I gave her everything. Gave her a beautiful home, brand new car, clothes. I gave her a $30,000 diamond ring. And the man she ran off with has nothing. He can't give her anything, lives in a shack. What could he possibly offer her that I have not given her? And me and all of my finesse, I said, he probably gave her the one thing you didn't give her. He gave her love. Husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it. And wives, same chapter, verse 22, Ephesians 5:22. Wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as unto the Lord. You will never have a happy home, a happy marriage, as long as the battle rages over who is going to be the leader. Well, Mack, I just cannot trust my husband's decision-making process. Well, you're probably right. Look at the decision he made about who he was going to marry. You promised me you wouldn't get angry at me. Tell each other that I love you. Amen. Say it often. Don't assume that they know it. Well, I told her I loved her 20 years ago. If anything ever changes, I'll let her know. I don't care who you are. Every one of us has something on the inside that's crying out for somebody to love me, somebody to hug me, somebody to hold me, somebody to tell me they love me. Girls, every once in a while, you ought to just go curl up on your husband's lap and tell him that you love him. My wife and I have been married over 61 years. Every once in a while, she'll come over and she'll do this. That means move your legs because I'm fixing to sit down. And every once in a while I'll say, oh, would you just come and sit in my lap for a little bit? Now I'm going to make you really mad. Husbands, wives, shut the damn phone off and start talking to each other. Well, I don't think a pastor ought to have said that. Well, go find you one that don't say it. I'm trying to help you. I'm sick and tired of seeing marriages fall apart, to see lives fall apart because they stop talking to each other, because we wear a mask. If you need to get rid of a mask, I can't make you take it off. It's got nothing to do with viruses. I'm talking about wearing a mask, learning to be honest, to talk to each other. Get off of the phone long enough to share your hopes, your dreams, your lives, and tell each other that you love each other.